It's Friday, the 9th of May. Welcome to the PDB Afternoon Bulletin. I'm Mike Baker, your eyes and ears on the world stage. All right, let's get briefed. First up, President Trump suggests that he's willing to drastically cut U.S. tariffs on Chinese goods just as his economic team heads to Switzerland for their first direct trade talks with officials from the communist regime. Later in the show, Ukraine is accusing Hungary of espionage after allegedly dismantling a Hungarian military spy network gathering sensitive intelligence regarding Kyiv's defenses near their shared border. We'll have those details. But first, today's afternoon spotlight. We'll begin with a major update on the U.S.-China trade war as President Trump signals that he's willing to make a big tariff concession to the Chinese Communist Party. Taking to Truth Social on Friday morning, the president said he'll consider slashing his current 145% tariff on Chinese imports by nearly half. That would, for those of you working on your math, that would be somewhere near 80%. Well, okay, not exactly 80%, but in that region. It was the first time that Trump suggested a specific alternative to his massive tariff and comes just ahead of direct trade talks with Chinese officials this weekend. That's according to a report from the Associated Press. As we've been tracking here on the PDB, Beijing and Washington agreed earlier this week to take the first step towards finding a resolution to the crippling tariff war, which began, of course, last month when Trump hit the Chinese Communist Party, the CCP, with the 145% duty on their exports, prompting Beijing to retaliate with a 125% tax on U.S. goods. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and Senior U.S. Trade Representative Jameson Greer will meet in Geneva, Switzerland, with China's economic czar on Saturday to break the ice on the subject of mutual de-escalation. In what appears to be an attempt to soften up the Chinese delegation ahead of the negotiations, Trump said, quote, China should open up its market to USA, would be so good for them. And then he used 3 exclamation marks. So it would be really good for them. Closed markets don't work anymore, end quote. He then added, 80% tariff on China seems right. Up to Scott B., of course referring to his Treasury Secretary. Now, whether the CCP takes Trump's remarks and the exclamation marks as an olive branch or maintains their stance that all unilateral U.S. tariffs must be dropped before substantive talks can move forward, well, that's anyone's guess. While an 80% rate would still be an extremely high import duty, it would bring some measure of welcome relief to Chinese manufacturers, which, of course, have so far borne the brunt of the economic standoff. The trade talks in Geneva are scheduled to run through May 12th, though neither the U.S. nor China has specified what the agenda will look like. Beleaguered global investors are hoping to see signs of a diplomatic breakthrough, such as potential tariff exemptions for specific product categories critical to both the U.S. and Chinese economies, even if the two sides are not yet able to hammer out broader trade terms. But some observers are more optimistic than others. Many financial analysts have said the Chinese delegation will likely maintain a hardline posture in the early talks, which they predict could drag on for several months or longer. They point to a statement from Chinese officials earlier this week that said their participation in the talks is not a sign of them caving to U.S. pressure, but based on a consideration of global expectations, China's interests, and appeals from American businesses and consumers. At a daily press conference on Wednesday, a spokesman for China's foreign ministry stated that Beijing's, quote, position of firmly opposing U.S. abuse of tariffs has not changed. They added, quote, if the United States wants to resolve the issue through negotiations, it must face up to the serious negative impact of unilateral tariff measures on itself and the world, end quote. But despite their face-saving rhetoric, the significant impact the tariffs have already had on China's export-dependent economy may make the CCP more willing to find a diplomatic off-ramp to the trade war. The CCP has already begun quietly exempting a host of U.S.-made products from their 125% retaliatory tariff. While China is not publicly acknowledging the exemptions, they are substantial, applying to roughly $40 billion in goods, or nearly a quarter of all Chinese imports from the U.S. this year. The exemptions cover a range of products, from pharmaceuticals and industrial chemicals to aviation components and critical inputs for electronics manufacturing. Since early April, Beijing has also been privately surveying businesses about other potential sectors where tariff waivers might be appropriate. Analysts say that this quiet approach by the CCP shows that China is eager to de-escalate, even as they publicly maintain their hardline messaging demand that the U.S. back down. Still, so far, the exemptions have not been enough to stop the financial bleeding. As we discussed earlier this week on the PDB, the mounting strain of the tariffs on China's economy has been difficult for the CCP to contain. Factory activity in China has now slipped into its sharpest contraction since late 2023, and numerous Chinese manufacturers have paused production entirely and shut down operations as they scramble to find new buyers. Goldman Sachs recently estimated that some 16 million jobs across Chinese industries are now at risk as China's export orders hit their lowest levels since the worst days of the COVID lockdowns. All right, coming up next, tensions in Eastern Europe escalate as officials in Kyiv accuse Hungary of engaging in espionage. It's a charge that officials in Budapest are calling Ukrainian propaganda. I'll be right back. Hey, Mike Baker here. Now, this July, maybe you've heard about this, but this July there's going to be a global summit of the BRICS nations in Rio de Janeiro. The bloc of emerging superpowers that includes China and Russia, and India and Iran, well, they're meeting with the goal of displacing the U.S. dollar as the global currency. And they're calling this the Rio Reset. That's a catchy name. As BRICS nations push forward with their plans, well, demand for U.S. dollars could decrease, bringing down the value of the dollar. While this transition, of course, won't happen overnight, the Rio Reset, well, it marks a pivotal moment when BRICS objectives move from possibility toward reality. So, you ask yourself, what can you do to help protect your hard-earned savings? Well, I'm going to tell you. One of the things you could do is check in with the Birch Gold Group. Look, Birch Gold can help you move your hard-earned savings into a tax-sheltered IRA in precious metals. Claim your free information kit on gold by simply texting PDB to the number 989-898. Look, with an A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau and tens of thousands of happy customers, let Birch Gold arm you with a free information kit on owning gold before the July Rio Reset. Text PDB to 989-898 today. Hey, Mike Baker here. Well, let's talk about eating smart, about eating healthy. And a big part of that effort, as you know, is knowing where your food comes from, right? How it was raised and how it was handled. After all, if you don't take control of your food supply, well, someone else will, and that could well be a large, faceless corporation, and you don't want that. Now, if you're a fan of beef, like I am, frankly, I was raised on meat and potatoes, then I've got just the place for you. I'm talking about where to turn to for high-quality beef, and of course, I'm talking about Tri-Tails beef. Look, Tri-Tails is a fifth-generation ranch run in Texas by real ranchers. There's no corporate nonsense. There's no middlemen. It's just pasture-raised, grazed-finished black Angus beef that delivers tenderness, rich marbling, and great taste in every cut. This grilling season, stock up before it's too late. And right now, when you order over $349, well, you get a free Choice New York strip. Just go to trybeef.com/PDBgrill. That's trybeef.com/PDBgrill. Your family, your friends, and your grill will thank you. Welcome back to the Afternoon Bulletin. Ukrainian officials say that they have dismantled a Hungarian spy network operating along their western border with Hungary, arresting 2 alleged operatives who were gathering sensitive intelligence. The incident marks the first occasion in Ukraine's history that authorities have uncovered a Hungarian espionage network operating on their soil and threatens to drive an even larger wedge between Kyiv and leaders in Budapest. Ukraine and their western neighbor have long had a tense relationship, particularly given Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban's affinity for Russian President Putin. The Hungarian leader has repeatedly attempted to use his position as an EU member to block military aid to Kyiv. But this new subversive discovery, well, could sink relations to new lows. That's according to a report from ABC News. Ukraine's intelligence service, also known as the SBU, announced the arrest of the 2 suspects on Friday, identifying both as former members of the Ukrainian military and claiming that their supervisor is a Hungarian military intelligence officer. The activity of the alleged spies was said to be focused on the Zakarpattia region that runs along Ukraine's border with Hungary and is home to a substantial Hungarian ethnic minority. Budapest and Kyiv have often clashed over the rights of ethnic Hungarians in the region, which until the end of World War I belonged to Hungary. Officials with Ukraine's SBU said the operatives were conducting activities, quote, to the detriment of our state, allegedly gathering intelligence on military defenses and identifying vulnerabilities in its ground and air defense systems. Even more troubling, they were also reportedly assessing the political views of local residents, specifically how residents would react if Hungarian troops crossed the border into the region. Detailing the allegations, SBU officials said one of the suspects was allegedly recruited by Hungarian intelligence more than 4 years ago and placed on standby in 2021. According to a report from the Kyiv Independent, he was, quote, activated in September of 2024 and subsequently carried out reconnaissance regarding the location of S-300 air defense systems and the deployment of Ukrainian troops. He then crossed the border in Hungary to deliver reports to his handler, who provided him with cash to fund the operation and ordered him to establish a network of informants. Ukrainian officials surveilled him as he reportedly tried to recruit at least 2 other individuals. The suspect had a second meeting with his handler in March of 2025, where he received a phone encoded with a special software for covert communications. He returned to Ukraine with orders to track Ukrainian military vehicles and report on developments from the front lines of the war. The second suspect is a former member of Ukraine's security forces who left her position earlier this year. She was allegedly tasked with tracking military aircraft operating in the Zakarpattia region and spilling secrets regarding air defense systems operated by her former military unit. Hungary's foreign minister was quick to hit back at the allegations of espionage, calling Kyiv's claims, quote, anti-Hungarian propaganda. We should note, however, that he did not expressly deny that Hungarian espionage cells are operating inside Ukraine. The foreign minister said, quote, I urge everyone to exercise caution against any news that appears in Ukrainian propaganda. If we get any details or official information, then we can deal with it, end quote. The suspects, meanwhile, face charges of treason, which is punishable in Ukraine by life imprisonment. And that, my friends, is the PDB Afternoon Bulletin for Friday, the 9th of May. Now, if you have any questions or comments, please reach out to me at pdb@thefirsttv.com. And according to all available intelligence, today is Friday. And as with every Friday, that means we'll be launching a brand new episode of the PDB Situation Report this evening at 10 p.m. on the First TV. Our excellent guests this week include Jeff Smith from the Heritage Foundation and the always insightful China analyst and author Gordon Chang. We'll be examining the growing conflict between India and Pakistan. Got to keep your eye on that one. And digging into the current trade war between the U.S. and China. As always, you can catch the Situation Report on our YouTube channel. Check that out. You can find it at President's Daily Brief. And, of course, all podcast platforms everywhere. I'm Mike Baker, and I'll be back over the weekend with the PDB Situation Report. Until then, well, stay informed, stay safe, stay cool. Hey, Mike Baker here. I want to take just a few seconds of your time to talk about fitness, right? That's a very important subject. You know that. Look, more and more Americans are making their health and fitness a priority again, and that's terrific news. And studies prove that strength training does more to burn fat than just cardio alone. Plus, as we age, and we're all aging, strength training is critical to maintaining muscle mass and bone density. Plus, and this is important, you want to be consistent and make it easy to find time to work out regularly, right? And the best way that I've found to do that is to be able to work out at home. And that's what JackedUp Fitness is all about. Look, JackedUp Fitness, as an example, offers the commercial-grade JackedUp Power Rack Pro. It's the ultimate all-in-one home gym system that lets you get a full-body workout right in your own spare room or garage. It's equipped with a cable crossover system, an integrated 200-pound weight stack, and a Smith machine, allowing you to perform literally hundreds of exercises. Everything that you used to do at the gym, well, you can now do at home. And if you're new to strength training, their Get Jacked Up program includes full-body video workouts led by celebrity trainers Kim Lyons and Clark Bartram. Simply press play and follow along. Couldn't be easier. So no more excuses. Look, I've got a Power Rack Pro at home, and I got to tell you something. It's amazing, right? The quality, the construction is outstanding. It's solid and smooth. It's really just like the best commercial gym machines. No more worrying about finding time to get to the gym either, right? Or whether when you get there it'll be crowded and you'll have to stand around waiting for benches and machines. Just visit getjackedup.com for more information and to sign up for their free program. And use promo code BAKER, that's BAKER, to save 10% at checkout. That's getjackedup.com. Hey, thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button and leave a comment, a really positive, nice, and kind comment. That would be appreciated. And if you're not already subscribed to our channel, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our daily updates.